Are we live?
Yeah, we are.
It's still not live on my end. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
Oh, so that's what's going on here. You see
Yeah.
it? And we are the CRM players, and yeah, we're doing a little experimenting here. And who better to experiment with than on the moment is Sven? Look at that. Hey, Sven, you see yourself on the? You see what's going on there? It's a little
Oh, so they're
box.
they're directly projecting the comment in the format it's in to the screen.
I wonder how that's going to look when you have like 4 or 5 people. Well, we'll find out.
I also
Uh,
wonder how it's going to look when I'm trying to read it.
well, you can still. I wonder. All right, so you can still do that, which I think
Oh,
makes much
oh,
more sense.
yeah.
I don't understand what that show comments on stage means because that's exactly what we're doing with that when you're able to see it. Anyway, we're the CRM players and we're just playing around with StreamYard at the moment. We'll see what happens with that. But he's here, he's back, he's Finn, and it's his moment.
That's right. Welcome, Sven. Yay again. Now I got to figure out. Didn't we just have Indonesian?
I think we did.
Yeah, I'm getting a similar vibe on this one.
But wait a minute, it's your Paulus Greenberg?
Yeah, that's what's a little weird.
Is it one of something you said,
I
but in
wonder
a
if
different
you're
language?
what if it's. I'm guessing it's a quote from me.
Are you related to Romulus?
And why would I say the word steroid? Something
I have
on steroids.
no idea. Generosity. That's quite all right there, Sven. I don't say enough meaningful things. All right, so
All right,
what's your guess?
this is a tough one. I might be wrong about this because we just did Indonesian, and I would kind of lean in that direction. When I see the word Palangan, I'm starting to think it's Tagalog, Filipino, but there's something wrong about that too.
Tagalog.
Yeah, Tagalog. That's the Filipino. I think I'm pronouncing it right. The Filipino kind of language family, and I'm saying it, but I'm not. This is one of those things. What do they call it when it's your your confidence factor? My confidence factor on this one's only like 40%. I'm not. I don't really have this one down. I'm going Malaysian or Filipino or something in Asia.
Pick one and run with it.
I may have.
You know, Bob is coming in. Bob must have some kind of idea what it is.
Yeah, that means he looked it up, unless he's just really that good with languages.
No, he just looked it up. Sven says, Paul, it is not funny if you are always right. We should stop the moment.
Well, you know what I could do if you really want to do that, Sven? I could just say that's English.
No.
Then you'll fool me, and then we can get back to me.
Oh, so Bob was giving you a hint.
He was probably he was giving me the name of the language.
Well, that's a pretty good hint because Sven is telling him to shut up. We got some potential fisticuffs coming out here. So it is
Indonesian. It was again.
Sven, did you mean to do that to you?
He did that last week.
Yeah, that's right. He did Indonesia. Oh, wait. If it's the exact same, it's not the exact same phrase. Because it's from the speed of light. So Sven is taking
what it is?
Quoting your book in different languages now.
Well, my book actually was that one of the languages? No, I don't think so. But I think so. What that is a dialect of Indonesian. That's why I said I thought we did Indonesian last week. The first thing I said was that because I didn't see Sven repeating it, but that's a dialect of Indonesian, which is what he did. Which I kind of cheating a little bit, but it's okay, Sven. I mean, we're right in the middle of it, so I say my initial guess was right, and my later two guesses were wrong.
Well, either way, we're glad to have the moment of Sven back.
Yes, we are.
All right. So I guess this thing is supposed to stay up the whole time, huh? When a comment comes in, it sort of sits in the corner there. I don't think I like that. It doesn't really look all that great.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And look what it does. It scrolls. So what I'm seeing is I see some of the. You see when you do that and it moves up, it just moves up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you
So
can't.
it starts then fading out, but I can see part of the faded out one in the
Well,
lower right on my
as
mic.
more comments come on, they just scroll up.
No, I know. I'm saying, but
That's
the
basically
fact that it leaves kind of the translucent vestige is just annoying. It covers up area.
Yeah, we'll see it when we add some other folks, because we are going to add some folks. But by the way, we are the CRM players, and guess what, folks? We've been bringing. Oh, see, you can't even really like this thing
That's
is
what I
covering up
mean.
you.
Yeah, look
It's
at that.
covering up you. So this doesn't really work when you have like slides and
No.
because it just doesn't look good. But we have been bringing the as since 2009, at least. That's true. That's accurate. As far as
Well, if we could ever figure out what as is,
yeah, maybe
it
we
would be very accurate.
How long is the delay? How long is the delay? What delay?
What delay? Mandalay.
You know what? It's interesting that we Bob is here.
Oh, I know what he means. What? How long is the delay from the when you put in a comment and it shows up on?
Oh, it's showing up pretty much immediately.
Yeah, it's immediate.
But I still think this is a much better look.
Well, it is, and it's a lot more readable and takes up less area.
But since Bob is here, we are about to roll out a new Playaz series.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that Bob is the host of that.
Yes, he is. Do we have a name for it yet? Does he have a name for it? Is what I really mean.
This is I just pulled something. I didn't know if it was the right something, but Bob is hosting the series. I don't know what it's called, but I know Playaz is in it somewhere.
So Bob, during IRL 2025, Bob was hosting the because he couldn't attend for varying reasons. He virtually hosted a kind of Playaz cast, which was, at least in theory, supposed to watch the main stage stuff and then have people come in doing commentary. Unfortunately, there were technical difficulties that made that impossible. So what was done in place of that was Bob hosted two of the three guest participants, each of them for their own kind of a deeper dive kind of series, on them and their thinking and so on and so forth. And it was really good, like really, really good. So Brent and I and Bob talked, and we realized this would be a great like pop-up series, where Bob would work to line up a guest, and then we would do like a pop-up show. We don't have to regularly schedule it other than as part of the regular, the regular lineup, but it's a pop-up show. And once we have a good guest lined up, then we would go ahead and get the show taken care of. There's still a lot of details to work out, but this is very exciting because you watch the interviews with Meg Bear and Kat Gazarian, not related to Carl Anthony Towns. I can't help it. It's still hurting from last night. So if you watch the
got a clip.
Oh, you do? Well,
here
you go. Let's bring it on, and you'll see what I mean by the nice depth of it all.
Observing is that the pressure for taking action with AI is like nothing we've ever seen before. There's pressure from the boards. There's pressure from the stock market and your shareholders. There's pressure from your stakeholders, your customers, your ecosystem. And then there's pressure from your employees. And every single person has a belief about how that should create value for them. But that value creation, as you just articulated well, is something we need to think about from a sustainability point of view, because none of us truly understands where the risks are going to be. We're going to learn this a lot in real time. So getting good at adjusting and getting good at pivoting while simultaneously managing all the expectations of stakeholders is really a new layer expected on the C-suite. And the thing that's really interesting is usually once you get to the C-suite, you have a very large toolkit at your disposal for making decisions, for activating ideas, and executing strategy. And what's happening today is there's a whole lot that is unknown and unknowable, and you're still being expected to make good decisions and to execute strategy. So I believe that squeeze is actually felt most acutely on our more senior leaders.
I'll just stop it there. I got to give credit to Bob, because Bob, his listening skills and his staying with the head Bob.
The head Bob.
The head. Ooh. That would be a good name of the show. It's the Head Bob, featuring Bob Fagel. How about that? No, I think Meg, of course, is somebody we've known for years and have appreciated all of her excellence and skill. And Bob is pulling a lot of dimes from these folks, from his questions.
Yeah.
And I think that makes for a really interesting conversation.
Sam, what makes it unique as a show for us is overall it's a singular conversation in depth.
You know what it makes it, though, also? What? We ain't in it. We're not anywhere near it. This is not us, which is a good thing.
Yeah, amen.
So we're going to start dripping those things out because, like you said, it's not only Bob, and it's not only the guests and their knowledge and expertise. They actually have personalities too, which we really appreciated. So.
Yeah. So be ready for more of whatever Bob Fagel show's name is.
Bob the Bird.
Bob the Bird.
I don't get that one. I definitely don't get the Bob the Head thing, but
Bob
the Head. Yeah, I like Bob the Head. Yeah, I like that one.
Bobblehead.
I should, because I said it first. Yes, Finn, we like that. So those will be coming out shortly. Just want to give you guys a heads up on that. We already had a lot of stuff go on this week. We did a watch party. Any additional thoughts on the Sapphire opening keynote?
Well, there was this. I don't know if I want to go through it, because it'll take a little bit, and I won't as a result. But there was an exchange sparked by a comment Thomas Wiebernick did about the speech. I highly recommend you take a look at the exchange. It was not mean, but it was tough. Just read it and you'll see it's more about, SAP, and I'll call it strategy versus soul. Just take a look at it. It's worth looking at.
Also, yesterday's happy hour, I did go off on a bit of a rant. It wasn't aimed at any one vendor, but we're almost halfway towards the year and gone to a number of events, and a lot of these events, unfortunately, have not been what they could be for a multitude of reasons. And I wasn't alone in that thinking, because we spent the last 30 minutes of the happy hour last night talking about this, and this is a lot of really interesting feedback, or a lot of interesting thoughts around why, at least in the enterprise software industry, these keynotes haven't been what we think they could be. But I want to play maybe a couple of examples of what a good story can mean to a keynote or a really meaty conversation. Because there was 3, I think, that went on this week. They just weren't in our space. So I'm going to play. I'm not even a TED Talk kind of guy, but Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google.
Yeah,
he was being interviewed. I'm sorry, I don't remember the guy's name. But it was as part of the TED Talk series, but it wasn't just him talking. But it was a really interesting conversation because there was a story being told. So I'm going to play this and see what you think. If I can only find this thing. I have so many clips here. All right, here it is.
Arrival of non-human intelligence is a very big deal. And this photo, taken in 2016, feels like one of those quiet moments. What did you see back then that the rest of us might have missed?
In 2016, we didn't understand what was now going to happen, but we understood that these algorithms were new and powerful. What happened in this particular set of games was in roughly the second game, there was a new move invented by AI in a game that had been around for 2,500 years that no one had ever seen. Technically, the way this occurred was that the system of AlphaGo was essentially organized to always maintain a greater than 50% chance of winning. And so it calculated correctly this move, which was this great mystery among all of the Go players, who are obviously insanely brilliant, mathematical, and intuitive players. The question that Henry, Craig Mundy, and I started to discuss, what does this mean? How is it that our computers could come up with something that humans had never thought about? I mean, this is a game played by billions of people. And that is the point at which the revolution really started.
I mean, speaking of just the sheer compute requirements of these systems, let's talk about scale briefly.
Do you have any idea how much computation 15 minutes of these supercomputers is?
They've already digested all the tokens on the public internet, and it seems we can't build data centers fast enough. What do you think the real limits are, and how do we get ahead of them before they start throttling AI progress?
So there's a real limit in energy. I'll give you an example. There's one calculation, and I testified on this week in Congress, that we need another 90 gigawatts of power in America. 90 gigawatts is 90 nuclear power plants in America. Not happening. We're building zero, right? How are we going to get all that power?
That was a riveting conversation. I found that, and like I said, I'm not a TED Talk guy, but that drew me in partially because of what they're talking about, but the way that he laid it out, very interesting.
Yeah, well, he got the history and the story to tell. That 90 gigawatt thing is freaky. That's unreal.
But and then he put it in context.
Yeah,
we're not gonna build 90 nuclear power plants anytime soon. And then I just kind of left it at a cliffhanger because he does go on to give how he would look into that solution. But that was one. All right, so here's the other. And this guy we've been talking about a lot when it comes to keynotes. So he did a keynote at a Computex or something like that.
Computex 2025. Yep.
So I hope this is the right. Let's see if this is the right one.
One node here replaces that entire supercomputer. 4,000 times increase in performance in 6 years. That is extreme Moore's law. Remember, I've said before that AI, NVIDIA has been scaling computing by about 1 million times every 10 years. And we're still on that track.
The stagecraft, the numbers, you're immediately drawn into what the hell he's talking about.
And part of it's him. I mean, he's just really good at what he does, right?
Very charismatic, yes.
Yeah, he's like the best. He pretty much presents himself completely the right way.
So by the way, Thomas agrees with whatever you're.
Oh, I knew that. I knew that. I wasn't arguing with him. He was making a point that was accurate, actually, which is around the capitulation of companies.
So I played those clips because why don't we get any of that kind of stuff in the enterprise software opening keynotes?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think if we take a look at a lot of the year, and, again, I haven't been attending, but I've been paying attention, obviously. Best way to put it is they're reverting back to pre-COVID type.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of that is literally the conversation that Thomas presented initially as the comment on that thing, which is, honestly, if I'm looking at this and I'm being blunt, they're scared to death about what the administration is going to do and whether they can get business from it, and they're reverting to the comfort zone of the shareholders rather than dealing with the stakeholders, and they're reverting to the comfort zone of things that a business person in the pure and false sense of business would wants to hear, quote unquote, what they think, right? And what they think they want to hear. I think they're frightened to death, and the shareholders are being completely kowtowed to. And I don't want to blame all of that on the administration. I don't want. That's not right to do it. I mean, it goes back further than that. It goes back with activist investors, intervening. It goes back to all kinds of things that have been occurring over the last few years that are scaring people away from the bigger picture about companies, right? What that they're institutions with a purpose, yeah, and they have to make money, yeah, they'd have to do that. Same time, they have a responsibility to the world, and they also should just understand, this, like every other human institution, they deal with humans, period, right?
Yep. By the way, I agree.
I do
to a
too.
certain extent with Bob. I think that's their main concern, really, is making sure they get their kind of the product announcements and the features and functions,
but that,
as opposed to the big story. Opening keynotes really shouldn't be down to that.
And here's the thing that makes that particularly venal is that they already know that the opening keynote shouldn't be that. It's not like they don't know that, right? But they've already, almost all of them have done that bigger picture keynote.
But here's why. Here's why I think they do know that, and they do the stuff they do, is because, and I've been harping on this all year, and it does go back to Jensen. It's not just about the people in the room. It's also about this virtual audience. And as only a rare few can actually pull this off, have 40 million people or 40 million views of your opening keynote done in like 3 days time, versus, I'm not saying this to disparage anything, but Adobe and NVIDIA had a conference going on literally at the same time. Keynote's going at the same time. One company got 300 or 3,800 views. One company got 40 million. So you gotta wonder, why is that? I mean, what's driving? That's an unbelievably huge difference for companies that are both incredible companies that are doing amazing things. But one company got 3,800 and this other company got 40 million.
Well, I think part of that's because Jensen's also, and this is the other thing that's disappearing. The visionary innovation is almost gone. I mean, most of the stuff we're seeing is substantial incremental improvements in AI of some kind, right? And they're substantial, and don't get me wrong, they're important too. But the vision that drove a lot of this to begin with is gone. Look, I don't know if you saw the announcement, but yesterday, OpenAI bought John Ivy's company, IO. That's going to be
iPhone designer.
Right. I mean, but think of it. That's going to be interesting what they come up with.
Yeah.
Because
and guess what?
And
wasn't Ivy with Apple the original?
Yeah, he was the guy
AI
at
company?
Apple. He's the designer of Apple, the guy, the big one. I mean, he drove almost everything that made Apple what it is when it came down to the design and architecture and so on and so forth. He's an amazing human being at many levels.
Can we kind of, there's not a direct correlation, but he was at Apple, helped design the iPhone. He was there when they broke out Siri. Siri was like the first mobile AI thing, although it wasn't really AI. It was just, I don't know what you call Siri.
Conversational.
And it never got a whole lot better. Now he's going to OpenAI. Do you think maybe there's some things that he might have wanted to do at Apple that he might be able to do at OpenAI, and what impact that will have on not only OpenAI and him, but the overarching users of AI on mobile devices? I say this only to say it also kind of feels like a lot of people that left SAP, went to ServiceNow, and we know they were experienced and intelligent and knew what they were doing, because once they left SAP to ServiceNow took off in the CRM space.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the point is give humans the freedom to do what they need to do, and they'll do it. I mean, that's there's a thing. There was this big German critical philosopher many years ago who had this paradox. He was trying to figure out how do you reconcile freedom and necessity, and that was Kant, right? Another one, Hegel came up with. He said the way you reconcile it, you have the freedom to do what's necessary, and that's where degrees of freedom come in, and everything else from there. But if you think about it, that's exactly what you're saying. These people know what to do. They know how to do it. They just need the freedom to be able to do it. And then when you give them that freedom, they can move. Look, I watched this interview between John Ivey, not a conversation between John Ivey and Sam Altman at some coffee shop, I think it was, or a restaurant yesterday. I watched it. It weirdly came up as an ad on YouTube. So I decided to actually watch the whole thing while I was there. And it was a conversation. And basically they said, look, we got something in the works in 2026. You're going to see it. Right. But it's this thing. Let's put it this way: the acquisition / merger. It's almost more of a merger than it is an acquisition, but it is an acquisition, obviously. Yeah, but that was, you can tell whatever this thing is coming up in 2026 already been long time in conversation between these two people. And right, this is not new.
And think about this: it'll come up in 2026, but how soon do you think it could have come up? If this guy was able to maybe do some things that he really seemed to wanted to do under the Apple umbrella.
But yeah,
guess he couldn't.
He's a genius. He is. I don't know that he's a wonderful guy or not. I have no idea what his personality's like, but he is a genius either way. Right.
Speaking of geniuses, because I know we got some guests to get on soon, but
you're right.
Before we can let our guests come on, you kind of know what we have to do.
Right? I had 3 minutes to try to get it through, and I didn't make it.
Nope.
And now it's time for Stump the Godfather with the venerable Paul Greenberg, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
All right, I had to cut. Man, that feels. I had to cut my man a little short. Benny was.
Wow.
Because we got to get to this. So this is this week's Stump the Godfather. I'm gonna get a little help when giving you the answer to this. But the question is, what?
Oh, are you kidding? What's this Larry Ellison thing?
Well, I did mention I was gonna get a little help. And
like give me the number. I know who the hell can even think numbers
I'm giving you bits per second. So
how about Googleplex? Googleplex.
Take a guess, anybody. I mean, I'm gonna get some help to unveil the answers. Put it like that.
I don't have a clue.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I assume it's in like zettabytes or petabytes or. Some number right there.
Okay, you're moving in the right direction.
Oh, I'm sure I am, but there's a lot of numbers between a zettabyte and a petabyte. Right. So I don't know which one it is. I'm just naming really, really, really huge numbers.
Give me the hugest number.
Googleplex would be the hugest number I could.
I don't even know what that is. Wow.
That's as close, pretty much as close to infinity as you can possibly get without being infinity. Although it's not quite that.
So Sven is saying 3.25 trillion bits per second. I guess that I'll say bits per second. All right, that's a huge number. Huge number. So Sven has started the bidding. Wait a minute, this ain't no bid. Guessing 3.25 trillion bits per second. And our guests in the green room, feel free to put your guess in the private chat, and we'll let everybody know. And anybody else out there, Thomas, Bob, anybody else? If I miss anybody else.
So here's a Googleplex is 10 to the power of 100 to the power of 10.
I have no idea what that means.
Just think about it. You don't have to figure out the actual number.
Just think about it. Hey,
just think about 10 to the power of 100 to the power of 10.
All right. So one of our guests in the green room, Burley Kawasaki. First of all, that's one of the nicest, the coolest names in the industry.
I know it is.
That's a really cool name. 3.24. All right, you're gonna have to ask him about the decimal points here.
He's just going right.
He's just going. He's going a little slightly below.
Exactly.
Slightly below Sven. 3.2499. Okay, that's a good one. Thomas is going 25 terabits per second with a question mark. Okay, we got that. Any of our other guests? I'm looking at you, Olga. I'm looking at you, Roy. What's your guess? And then you don't get. There's no penalties for getting the wrong answer.
Yeah, there is.
You might get laughed at, but that's pretty. That's not too bad. All right. So what are you saying your guess is?
Who are you asking, them or me?
You.
Oh, I know. I'm gonna be like ultra conservative, and I'm going in Thomas's world. Although I'll go even under him. I'll go to 10 terabits per second.
All right. 10 terabits, 25 terabits, 3.25. I guess that would be trillion bits per second. So that's terabits, I guess. I don't know.
No, it's trillion. Yeah, I guess it. Well,
does a tera equal?
I don't know. That's right. I don't have a clue.
And of course, we have right beneath Sven, we have Burley. All right. You ready for the answer so we can get on with the show?
I'm trying to find out how big a terabit is.
Well,
a terabit is 1,000 gigabytes. So it would be a billion gigabytes. A billion bytes. I don't know.
All right. It's just time to get this over with at this point.
Yes, it is.
All right. Here, with the help of the one and only Jensen Wang, if I can find the clip, I think this is the clip.
It's no help.
I thought
he was going to get some help in advance.
This one. I think this is it.
That's
perspective.
No help.
The peak traffic of the entire internet. The peak traffic of the entire internet is 900 terabits per second.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Maybe Sven was the close. I don't know. But
no, he's not. That's not a terabit.
Oh, okay. So what is it? What is it?
Thomas is the closest, and none of us are anywhere vaguely close.
He said 25 terabits, and it was 900.
Right.
Per second. That is crazy. I can't even. My mind can't even do that.
Hold on. I'm going to find out the detail.
You're going to find out what?
It's 900 million. 900. No, that's a terabyte.
Let's just say it's a lot and move on, because we do have some guests.
It's 900 million megabytes.
When you hear the number and you still don't have any idea what that number is in relation to anything, you know, it's just he could be making this stuff up.
Bob says he said 100 terabits. What did he? Oh, he did.
So Bob he was the closest. Well, he said 100. No, he just said 100. Sorry, Bob. Right. We cannot take your word for it.
That's right. He could have been 100 anything.
Yes. Sorry, Bob. Maybe next time. Maybe next. Are you surprised or are you intrigued by that number?
I'm blown away by it. I actually, although when I was saying petabytes and zettabytes, I wasn't like, I'll put it this way. The number in general, like just the knowledge of the number, is completely unfathomable to me anyway.
It's
even not knowing is I could have not even a vague possible clue where to even start when it comes to figuring something like that out.
Could you imagine being the person that had to count that? No, I'm just
kidding. Yeah, one at a time.
All right.
1, 2. You
got to start all over again.
Right.
You got up to like 900
in the first second.
Got up to 899, then lost count. All right. So we're introducing a bit of a new segment to the show. I'm calling it PG, or rated PG, because this is where the Venerable Paul Greenberg does a quick one-on-one conversation with our next guest. And since he knows who the next guest is,
actually,
I'm legally not allowed to say.
I know, but I can, but it's kind of inspired by Bob's approach. It really is.
Oh my God. All right. So I'm turning things over for you to introduce your very first rated PG guest.
All right. So this is different than normal, but I've known. So here's the deal. A few years ago, it's probably want to be 6-7 years ago now, I met this guy for breakfast who was coming through town, who he and I just gotten in touch at one of my favorite breakfast restaurants in this area. And we sat and talked for a while. And I was so impressed with him. He turned out he was from Chicago. He was a Northwestern graduate like I was, journalism too, I think. I don't remember if that's right. But a Northwestern graduate, became an attorney, actually, if I remember correctly. Then, though, he moved into this whole other world of philanthropy, but not just broad, generic kind of philanthropic diversity, kind of different things here and there. Sports philanthropy. And honestly, if you just say the two words to me, I'm hooked, right? Because they are two areas I, of course, love, other than what happened with the Knicks last night. Still not over that. So if I bring it up throughout the conversation, sorry. But here's the thing. He created an organization called Sports Philanthropy Group. He's built a conference, which is coming up June 25th, which we'll be talking about, called Sports Philanthropy World. And he brings together both venues, both genres, in a way that's actually unique, and at the same time leverages the power of sports to provide good to the world. His name is Roy Kessel. He is a good man. And I'd like to bring Roy on right now. There you are, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be here. But now I guess I have to behave if this is only a PG-rated show.
Yeah. We can go to PG-13. I was bar mitzvahed at 13, so we can sort of go from there. All right. So what was how many years ago was it when we met? Was it like 7?
Yeah, it was probably about 2000 and probably a little before the pandemic.
So it's 2018, 19. Yeah,
Yep.
6, 7 years ago. I mean, I still remember our conversation, over breakfast, and you did kind of blow me away. And so let's talk about you. When you and I talked, and also getting to know you over the last few years, one thing I noticed is you have been kind of dead center in sports philanthropy. And I mean dead center. Like, if I look at, I don't know, this is from memory, so forgive me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at the last, let's say, 5 or 6 things you did in life. They were related to sports philanthropy specifically. One way, I think, if I remember, one was, of course, appeals to me, given I was bar mitzvahed, was the Jewish sports philanthropy work you did earlier on. And so can you talk to a little bit about why philanthropy, and then B, why sports philanthropy? What was it that got you there?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I think you hit it on the head, Paul. I've been around sports most of my life. And one of the things that I saw, having been an NFL agent, having taught sports law at Northwestern in their graduate sports management program, and been around a lot of aspects of sports and working with startup businesses and running celebrity and charity golf events. The thing that was consistent that I saw is athletes really wanted to give back and help. They believe strongly in supporting their communities. But what they don't have, and historically have not had, is the guidance and the tools to be able to do that. So sadly, over the years, they've typically been conditioned that they're good for 4 things when they're not playing sports. So that's taking pictures with people, signing autographs, playing in golf outings, and going to fundraising dinners. Now, the common thread in all of those is it's really a celebrity function. That's not really giving from your heart. You're not truly in those roles changing lives and transforming communities. These athletes have so much more passion, so much more accomplishment that they've done. You don't get to be a professional athlete in any sport without a ton of dedication and commitment. And so they want to make a difference in lives. But they, again, typically are early, right, in the life cycle, right? They're in their early mid-20s, maybe 30. And they haven't had the experience and the networks to be able to do all of those things. And so one of the visions behind Sports Philanthropy Network is, how do we take that power of sports? How do we take that appetite that the athletes have for making a difference and guide them and nurture those tendencies in a way that would really make a big difference in the world.
So given that, how do you even like find someone to help? Like when it comes to on the athlete side, like, I mean, where do you start? Because it's, to me, look, I mean, to your point, athletes are, they're well, while they're athletes, they're lauded, celebrated or yelled at and demeaned, depending on how good they are on any given second. But one way or the other, they're in the spotlight, right? Even again, they could be Aaron Judge level, they could be an unknown just coming up from into the major leagues or something like that. But there's people everywhere with them. In the meantime, you're looking for the people like what was Mercury? Is it Mercury Morris? Who's the one who does? No, the one who does the homes. Was it him? Who was the one?
Work done.
Work done. Thank you. Work done. You're looking for those kind of human beings who care and really, really, from their heart, will devote themselves to really making an effort. And you're looking for some who at least will help, even if they're not at the level of work done. How do you even find people like that? What makes you say, okay, this is the person? And then what do you do once you decide it's the person?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's actually a lot more out there than people realize that have that interest and have that passion. What hasn't been out there is the resources and the mechanism to support those efforts, right? Or to help nurture that desire. One of the things that's hard if you're a professional athlete is your schedule is crazy. You're pulled a lot of directions and people are asking you for a lot of things. And so as we've approached things, our goal is how can we make it easy for the athletes, right? Our community primarily consists of not only the athletes, but the community-based sports nonprofits that provide those grassroots programming in every sport you can think of. Right? Not just a traditional baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, but things like stand-up paddleboarding, beach volleyball, figure skating, so many different ways to make a difference in young lives. And then the third group in that constituency are larger sports organizations. So that would be teams, leagues, governing bodies, associations, universities. These are groups that have more scale, have more resources, but often haven't focused the work that they're doing on philanthropy and giving back, right? So they know that it's important, and there's oftentimes some great initiatives, but they only now are starting to dig deeper into this. When I started looking at this model, which was about 2010, before I got pulled into concussion work, it was truly amazing how few organizations in the sports world were actively working in their communities, right? The sports teams or collaborating with other teams in their market. That's improved a lot in the last 15 years, but we still see a long way to go. There's still probably too much of what I would say is giving people a fish instead of teaching them to fish. So part of the purpose of our Sports Philanthropy World Conference is how do we bring together organizations that want to collaborate? How can we help the organizations with their growth, with their capacity building, so that they can build a stronger organization? And this community here that we're talking about with CRM Playaz, it's important because technology is one of the great stumbling blocks that many of these organizations have. They don't have the big budgets of a tech company to have a full department and everything. They're working on shoestring budgets. They're working with oftentimes a staff that is pretty bare bones, and finding even one good person that has that technical savvy that can run a CRM system, run a fundraising system, handle all of the other tech requirements. That's a big challenge for most of these organizations. And it's something that holds back their growth. So it's an area that we've identified of being able to find partners that want to work with us to implement and roll out innovative technology solutions that can help these nonprofits build and grow their organization.
Well, from that standpoint, I know that, I've talked about this at times, but around, the organizations like SEAT and you guys could you could be arch collaborators. I mean, it would make complete sense, really, to me, anyway. But the other side of it, from the technology company side, a lot of the technology companies do, at least, I'm assuming it's continuing these because I haven't talked to them recently about it, but they have programs where they'll minimally, for free or absolutely like minimal nominal reasons, provide the technology that a company needs, and also help them with the implementation of the technology and the servicing of it down the road. It's just a matter of the organizations that you're talking about would have to spend the time to make the effort to reach out and say, hey, we need to help. That said,
Absolutely.
So,
and I think that that's important. And I think you're right. There are probably more companies that offer either reduced rates or free services from the technology solution. And that's a great start. I think that the next step that we want to find more solutions for the organizations in our network and those smaller nonprofits is that we need to find the people that can help them implement that, right? And whether that's something we can get a grant for as Sports Philanthropy Network and then provide that sort of as a fractionalized CTO type of service or CIO type of service for these nonprofits, because most of them don't need a full-time person, right? And most of them don't have the depth of financing or the depth of technology where they need somebody there full-time at that scale. But they do struggle to have somebody that can really architect a system and implement it and then turn it over to the staff to be able to run with it, but still have that backdrop of someone that they can bounce off and troubleshoot the issues that they're going through as they grow.
All of that's possible offline. I have two things that popped in my head we can talk about. One last thing. Tell us about your conference, upcoming conference, Sports Philanthropy World, on June 25th.
Thank you. So we're excited to be hosted again this year by KPMG. They've been a great partner. So it's June 26th and 27th in Chicago in the Aon Center, which is right overlooking Millennium Park if you've been to Chicago. So it's a beautiful space. We're happy to have summer dates. We've got full day of programming on Thursday, half a day on Friday. We're going to have over 50 sessions that will be running, 8 tracks of breakout programming as well as main stage and keynotes. We're going to have team owners, current and former professional athletes. We've got people from the league offices in the NFL, MLB, PA. We're going to have some teams, some universities. So we're excited at the breadth that we have. We're including more of a focus on the financial side in terms of family office and venture philanthropy types of organizations and philanthropy consulting. One of the things that we often hear from the athletes and their families is that they're not sure how to establish a fund or a foundation. Not every athlete needs their own foundation. They can make a great impact without having a foundation. And so that's something that we consult with them and identify the pros and cons of setting that up themselves versus supporting an existing initiative. And it's not something necessarily where we're pitching them to support Sports Philanthropy Network. There's amazing causes out there in every area, from mental health to adaptive sports, to all kinds of social justice, right? To anything that you can see. Concussions is a big issue. And we continue to work with organizations now that are identifying how we can use sports as a tool to break down some of the human trafficking, to prevent gun violence, to increase vaccination rates.
Amazing.
So sports has a power to draw attention to a lot of different causes. And so, again, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's domestic violence, any issue that is out there, we can highlight and spotlight that work through a sports lens there are athletes out there who have experienced those in a very personal way where it's touched their lives. And we want to make sure that people are really focused organically on something that's authentic to them and their life. This isn't about having paid spokespeople. Nobody is paid to speak at our conference. Everybody that comes because they're part of our community and really want to be part of what we're building. And they find
thank you,
great
Roy.
collaboration.
You're really genuinely remarkable, and welcome to the CRMCX community too. We're happy to have you. So I assume it's sportsphilanthropynetwork.com where people can go. And,
It would be .org, sportsphilanthropynetwork.org. You can click through and see the full agenda there. It's got all of the confirmed speakers, and we're confirming new people each day. So it's a great opportunity, and you'll meet incredible people from around the world of sports and beyond.
Thank you, Roy. You're awesome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I highly recommend you talk to Roy when you get the chance.
Let me bring myself back in. That was a really good conversation.
He's great, and what they're doing is it's deep too. It goes a long way, and I'll tell you, I've known him. I haven't been to the sports philanthropy world yet. Timing has just always been kind of bad for me, but probably next year's I will be there. Well, not probably. Next year's I will be there, not this year. But he's just remarkable. Sportsphilanthropynetwork.org. Go to it. Look at the conference. If you can get there, go.
And if you need help going, Paul will send you some money to go.
That's right.
All right. Now,
Me.
got two other remarkable people. Now, that your challenge is to make a brief intro so that we can move them on. So I turn things over to the venerable and as what was his name? Brian Summer, the vulnerable Paul Greenberg. Here we go.
All right. I'm going to do this as quick as humanly possible. Well, look, first of all, both our guests are from Creatio. One of them is from Creatio, and the other one is from originally BPM Online, which is when I met her. I'll start with Olga. Olga, I've known her for a long time, since 2011, I think it was, right? And I'll put it this way. When BPM Online was BPM Online, they had no marketing function. They just didn't have it. So Olga actually took it upon herself to, I guess the best way to put it is create it and then build the outreach programs besides, then do kind of the brand work in addition, and then work with the rebranding. And she literally, I am remarkably, I'm so impressed with this, and I always have been. She's made herself a CMO. She literally did all she's doing and has done now, both as a CMO and now as EVP of brand at Creatio again. She's doing the work that a CMO does, and she's an experienced CMO now. But when she started, she wasn't an experienced CMO. She just figured it all out and did it absolutely right. And throughout all of that has remained this absolutely wonderful, I don't even know the best way to put it, is one of the sweetest, nicest people I've ever known.
I just got to ask you, that's your abbreviated intro?
Yes.
All right. We need a abbreviated.
All right, how's this?
I'll
I'll do this real quick. Burley Kawasaki, haven't known him anywhere near as long. I've known him for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. He's chief product officer at Creatio, but we've had him on the show. And I've had a chance to meet him in person at the conference, Creatio's conferences. And again, I don't know what it is about Creatio, but they hire these exceptionally accomplished, nice people. Right? He's like this nice guy with a great name, but he's somebody you take to as soon as you meet him. And if you take a look at Creatio's product evolution since he was there in that short time, it's exceptional. So clearly he knows his, I'll say stuff, even though I prefer to say something else. So let's bring them both on, man.
Let's bring them both on, and then we get to say hello. And sorry, folks, we're out of time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and we will use whatever time we have.
No, don't worry. We can carry. We don't really quit it forever. We'll
No,
just
we're just
carry past
mindful
one.
if you guys might have something to
Right.
do. We have nothing to do. Paul's retired, and I don't know
That's
what I
right.
do at the moment.
I just hang out and get on the show once in a while.
So one thing I missed, and I guess you did too last week, no code days for Creatio, and because there's like 4 other things going on, unfortunately, and I was at another one.
And
But
I'm retired.
I saw some pictures, and amazingly, there was a picture that had you and me both in there that Jesus had put up, and I thought, wait a minute, how did I? Anyway, so first of all, tell us about what happened last week. What were some of the things that we missed out on?
That is amazing to be back to the industry and to be back to people I really love. Paul, Brent, thank you very much for having us. That's such a pleasure and honor to be here. And we indeed missed you. You were virtually with us in Orlando, but we really missed you there. It was such a big a big engagement with Creatio community. That's actually so. As Paul mentioned, I rejoined Creatio just recently, and the most frequent question I get is why go back, and that was the biggest reason. This community that's of great people that we have around Creatio, that Creatio generally cares about our customers, our partners, analysts we work with. That is the core value that we had at Creatio throughout all these years. The company has grown to a unicorn status. The company has expanded to new markets. Product evolvements and evolution are mind-blowing. But what hasn't changed is the value of this genuine care. So it was flattering to see, to unite Creatio community in Orlando last week for the No Code Days at the age of AI now, right? And really have this blast with the people who are actually driven with the same idea of not accepting legacy, not being comfortable with technology that has them to make them to adjust, not the other way around, and technology that is built for lock-in, not for agility and support of their business growth. That was flattering, and we've got raving feedback from the entire community. Everything from venue to overall value from the event kept kept people recognizing it over and over again. And special guest, Burley interviewed him. Burley, do you want to tell more about the guest of the event?
Yeah. No, it was an amazing opportunity to have Steve Wozniak, who needs no introduction, but he was our guest. He provided a keynote on the first day, and it was a unique opportunity because, if you look back at the impact that Wozniak had and that Apple had on just changing the way we work with technology, right? A little bit earlier on the show, you were talking about Tony Ives and how Apple changed the way, made it more personal for us to work with technology, right? And now we don't even think about it, but it dramatically changed the way people thought about interacting with software, right? It's in their pocket now, it's everywhere. And that same inflection point that happened, sort of 40 years ago, I think, when Apple, launched the Macintosh, right? And it forever changed the way we all work with in a more personal way. I think we're seeing that same magic happen with AI right now, right? Because instead of us having to learn how to work with software for the first time, it's actually learning how to work with us, right? It's adapting to us. It's talking our language. It's adapting to our processes and the way we do business. And that's a completely different model, more personal model. And so the discussion with Wozniak was really, we thought, so appropriate, because here was a gentleman who ushered in that change for personal computing, and I think we're now seeing AI making things personal again in a whole new way.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, the other place where you guys excel and you literally are recognized for it is your UI and UX, which is, I've never thought of a UI or UX as beautiful, particularly because tech UI. Yours is borderline that, right? And you got an award for it from basically a panel of 27 analysts who had unlimited choices when they started out as to who their top 3 were going to be. And then when the top 3 were decided and they got to choose from them, you won hands down. It wasn't even close, right? And you have to think about that. There's 27 analysts from a multiplicity of different industries, and different focus.
They don't usually agree on anything.
No, but this one, that was, you weren't unanimous, but you were close, right? And so that UI UX goes to the heart of the personal computing side too. You look at some of the other companies out there, Oracle, for example, they were they were the ones who kept you from being unanimous, right? Redwood, right? So, but there's real power in making that personal. And the AI stuff, I think, look, I mean, it basically triggered. The right brain got triggered by Gen AI, right? Because AI had been around for 50 years and wasn't particularly attractive, or even it was interesting and did things, but it wasn't, the world is,
well, you need to be a data scientist, really, in order to
right.
use AI.
Now you don't. And so what about that, though? Because you guys have always had a very powerful kind of business user IT focus. Right. When I said that, a lot of, look, I know your company for how long here now, a long, long time. And I would meet if I would go to a conference, a lot of the people there were like leads in IT, or they were just like top business users at the company who could use your no code tools. That'd be savvy business users. Right. But AI kind of tries to democratize a little more. So what does that mean for you guys?
I have 2 stories about it. I'll be quick. I remember my first week with this new cycle with Creatio. Burley was in the office, and we sat down with him, and he opened the Creatio product to me with just one line, prompt line, not search line, one prompt field. And that's the entire UI or UX that you have. You don't have, even with the easiest UI that Creatio has now with AI as a native part of the platform, you don't have to go through the menu, the trees, you don't have to get to know all of that. You can literally operate and do everything in your CRM as you would work with ChatGPT. Here is the prompt, please do it for me. Bring me there. Show me this dashboard. Give me this results. Launch this, run this process. That is amazing. That what really shifts the paradigm, because it gives you the perception of CRM as your assistant, not as the burden and system of records where you need to spend time to put all the data. That is a big fundamental shift. And yes, Paul, to your point, that's what we see with our customers. We have what we internally call a Salesforce recovery group among our customers because they switch to Creatio as they see this ease of use, ease of operations, ease of customization. We have a CPR, cell phone repair, very assurant. You definitely saw they have 500 franchise locations around the globe, right? You have one in your city, if not on your street. And they they switched from Salesforce to Creatio, 1,300 users, leveraging the system because it's way much faster to deploy, 4.5 months, and deployment is done. They automate their central offices and operations with their franchisees. Not technical people at all, no the CIOs, not developers. That's what we see among our customers. So that is the power of this ease of UX, UI, customization, and flexibility.
The other thing I would add to that, I agree with everything that Olga said, but I think the other big shift that AI brings is the ability for everyone to code, right? And you touched on this, Paul, but I think if you look back, for decades, right, we've sort of been taught that customizing your packaged app is a bad thing, right? Because the more you customize, then it gets expensive. It's hard to upgrade, right? You're sort of trained to follow the vendor's best practices and their way because, quite honestly, it was too expensive and too risky if you customize the app. I think AI is completely going back in some ways to the old custom dev time frame, right? Because now everyone, even you, me, anyone who can write natural language, essentially can customize the way their application, right, behaves. And so you can have a CRM application that's customized for Paul or for Brent, right? Not the way that the vendor sort of shipped it, but something that's unique to you. And so in a lot of ways, AI is the ultimate form of no code, right? Because it does democratize it to everyone. And I think what this really means is you're going to see a lot more personal, personal sort of deployments of CRM because of, being able to broadly be able to customize it, adapt it to your specific processes or needs, as opposed to having to use something off the shelf.
So what does that mean for your partners? I mean, I remember one thing you did with your industries, which I always thought was kind of brilliant, was you kept a few industries for yourself, and then you kind of farmed the rest to your partners and said, you build this, we'll go to market together, which I always thought was a great strategy. But your partners play a big role in your company. So how does this make it work with them?
Yeah, I mean, the partners I talk with are very excited about this model, right? Because I think it sort of shifts where they spend their time, right? They're today spend a lot of time doing sort of configuration, setup. I mean, important tasks, but not necessarily the value drivers for our customers, right? And so a lot of this is around helping with process redesign, right? Processes with AI are different fundamentally than the processes the way they are today. And so a lot of the process redesign or best practices is super important to realizing the value. So it's shifting where our partners, can spend time for the same amount of budget. They can put more effort and focus on some of these more strategic tasks and less on just sort of the low level configuration. And that's true for even outside our package app. If you're building a custom extension add-on, I mean, the use of agents now is accelerating no-code custom development as well. So our partners can be the domain expert. They can be the expert around the process, and then AI will take care of a lot of the tedious implementation tasks so that they can really focus on higher level value for their clients.
I had a recent conversation at one of these events. Somebody put this, and I agree with the way they put it. Last year was all about kind of the generative, if I can only say it, generative driven interaction paradigm to agentic driven jobs to be done paradigm. And it seems like that would play right into your wheelhouse, given your background at BPM and where you are today. And then I also heard this other kind of thing. Last year, people were going for, or were at the what is it? Fear of missing out. So that's the FOMO.
FOMO.
And this year, it's a fear of messing up. So you've got this interaction.
FOMO.
You've got the interaction, the jobs to be done, and you've got FOMO to FOMO, I guess. How does that? I would assume that kind of plays positively with your customers and your kind of product background. But how do you guys see that?
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, I think last year people were talking a lot about AI and they were spending on pilots. But if you look at a lot of the data, there have been a number of studies on this, right? Very few were making it out of pilots, and even fewer still were really delivering value, right? And that's, to your point, a lot of it was generative, right? It was actually adding tasks because a human had to, know how to coach or to prompt the AI to do something useful, and it didn't guarantee ultimately that it was going to, deliver an outcome. And so this year, as we're working with our clients, one of the key things we're trying to do is remove the friction from them to get to some new AI-enabled process. And so one of the things fundamentally that we made a decision on last year was we're not going to charge for AI, right? Because so much of the customer discussion with us was, hey, I'm concerned. It's like when they moved to the cloud, a decade or whatever ago, they were worried about, okay, if I move to the cloud, am I going to get a big bill, unpredictable costs, and those same concerns were loud and clear when it came to AI. I don't know what my AI bill is going to be. All the vendors have different confusing pricing models, right? Am I really going to use it? If I don't use it, I'm paying a lot for this technology that is really not going to deliver. And so we made a decision to not charge, full stop, which is putting, or leaving money on the table, but it is the right thing to do if you're trying to help our customers adopt it more rapidly. And so they don't need to buy anything, right? When they upgrade to the current version of Creatio, they get all the features and AI power automatically. And so that's really, I think, one of the things that's different this year is like just how broadly we're starting to see the interest and adoption accelerate. And I think that's partly because of ease of use, as we talked about, partly also our pricing model or lack of a pricing model for AI, right? We're really seeing that.
I think it's significant because a lot of conversations I've had, and there are some vendors who stutter and stammer all over themselves when you start talking about pricing for this.
Yep.
And
then
only
there's one or two of you who don't.
Yeah. I talked to one last week and now we're talking to another one. But how important do you think that is to your customers, at least starting to feel like they need to get in there and dip more than a toe in, but start going full bore?
Yeah, well, everyone moves at different speeds, right? I mean, some are like very aggressive and they want to move quickly. We work with a lot of credit unions or banks, government agencies that are moving more slowly. And so I think what this does is it gives the power or the control to the customer, right? And even to the individual user. They can move as fast or as slow as they want to. And so I think by not making it about, oh, I've got to deploy this, I've got to use it because the company bought this, and now we suddenly have to return some value. We say, look, it's a great enabler of productivity, but whether you use it is up to you, your industry, your regulation. I mean, there's a lot of things we know make it harder for customers to just adopt the latest and greatest technology. So we're trying to make it their choice. So when we look at our customers, adoption varies, by industry, by size of customer a lot, but there's a lot that are now, sort of unblocked, if you will, just because they don't need to pay for it to get it. And so most of the time we're spending with them is just, how do you unlock value in the software you already have? It's not about trying to sell them an upgrade. It's about just helping them come up with the new, use cases.
Okay, so kind of down to a couple of very brief random things and then one final question. Random things are, in 2011, I remember when I was in Kyiv, actually, at an event, BPM online event, and they were showing you, I think Catherine was showing me the platform, and you had in that platform, and this is so prescient given AI, you had in that platform a search function, and that search function could I think it was version 5 or 7, or I don't remember, it was earlier version of Creatio, of BPM online, but you could, inside that search bar, you could search for code internally or anything externally also. And I'd never seen anything like that at the time, and meaning it literally did a full internal search of, and a full external search simultaneously, not simultaneously, but as you choose. That was mind blowing then. And now we're seeing it in a very different way, but the same way, exactly, almost. The second thing is, this is just a shout out to Kate, your AR person. She's a rookie and she's amazing. She's already working. She kind of reminded me a little bit of what I said about you, Olga. She somehow is teaching herself AR, and she's done a brilliant job. And I just want everybody to hear that, especially other analysts who she is great and she's attentive and she gets it. And she had no experience coming into this and she just figured it out. Okay. So shout out to Kate, right? So then the final question is, all right, so looking ahead, another year or two, I mean, Creatio has always kind of kept moving. Okay, that's what it does, and it's done that since I've known them. And what does keep moving mean from a visionary standpoint? You guys are interesting in that regard. You're sort of half visionary, half mission driven. You're not quite one or the other. So what does that mean moving forward when it comes to the brand, when it comes to the vision of the company next year, a year after? Where are you different? Or are you?
Well, as the keeper of the brand, maybe Olga, I'll let you
Of
answer
course.
that one, and then I'll follow up after that. So,
Well, our goals and our aspirations do not change. We want to provide technology that serves people that use it, that supports the pace of growth of the businesses that choose it, that enable people to do what they do best: think, create, lead, and takes all the routine work out of their plate. So that has always been the purpose of Creatio, to enable people with better technology that they do not get access to anywhere else. And that has not changed through the years. I know what I'm talking about, right? And that will not change moving forward. And what we how we do that through no code. We do that through ready to use CRM. No, we do that through AI as a native integral part of our solution, but that doesn't change our purpose.
Okay.
I would echo. Our purpose remains the same. I think, if I'll sort of go back to where I started with sort of the Apple and the Macintosh launch, right? If you'd gone back to the original Macintosh team and you would have asked them to say where was technology going in 40 years, I'm not sure they could have told you, right? In to a certain degree, it didn't really matter, right? Because what they did was something that they believed was insanely great, right? To use a Jobs phrase, and that they believed would make technology more personal. And I think, regardless of like how much AI evolves, no matter how much we can leverage and take advantage of a lot of new innovations, but I think it's staying focused or grounded around how do you make the experience, how do you make it very personal? That I think is the real opportunity, and we've seen that. Honestly, the companies that do that well continue to sustain themselves. And Apple looks nothing like it did 40 years ago, but even though they've changed a lot, they still are the leaders in terms of technology that is easy to use, that is personal to you, right? And that's been, an enduring sort of element of their vision. And I believe the same is true for what you'll see from Creatio as well.
All right.
First of all, thank you for making time to do this. I know coming after a big conference week, how hard that can be. I'm just attending conferences, and by the time I get back home, I'm wiped out. So I can only imagine what you guys are feeling. And what should we be on the lookout for from you next?
Well, we're taking the No Code Days event on the road. So the one we did last week actually was the kickoff to a series of 10 or more locations. And so I know you've got followers on this show around the globe. We'll basically be coming to a city near you. And so please do join. You can find out on our website where our sort of global stops are for our No Code Days in London and Warsaw and Mexico and around the globe. But that's a great way to, I think, engage and sort of get part of the experience throughout the coming months.
That's interesting. I thought I gonna cover that part. I thought you gonna cover it. That's release. I wonder, like, why it's not even there. But from the product standpoint, we are looking forward to the next release with even bigger emphasis on AI-driven automation. So that's something big to expect within the next month.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Keep your eyes peeled. We will have more to tell. So.
Hey, Burley, just one last thing. Like this, depending on where you're sitting with that green screen up, it literally looks like some guy is putting his hand with a gun and pointing it at your head. Right. Every time.
Oh my God.
It's been going on the whole time, and it's like disturbing me, man. Right? It's like somebody, all of a sudden, a hand comes through with a guy pointing a pistol at your head. Yeah. Might want to change the green screen next time. It's like, holy cow.
And on that note, we like to say thank you to Olga and Burley. Please be safe. You never know what's going to happen, apparently. And we look forward to talking to you later on. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys. You are awesome as always.
Wow. Gunpoint, huh?
Yeah, no, it really was like throwing me off because it all of a sudden you see this hand come through the window and it's pointing like it's probably like a track light, but it looks like a pistol being pointed at his head and directly at his head, just by the way he would sit, and when he would move, it would go away. But
that ain't good.
No.
But you know what is the way we're going to end this show? Because I have a clip from one of our PPN shows, The Crunch with Rebecca and Patrick. You cannot say one without the other at this point.
Nope, they're co-host.
And her guest this week was Ian Gotts. And great conversation about really designing for optimum agent use and workflows and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, during her show, she usually asks towards the end of the show, like these more personal kind of questions. So I was rather intrigued by this one, and I have to admit, I think Ian answered it correctly. You want to check it out?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Finally, if you could be any person or thing, what or whom would you be?
Actually, if I could be any person or thing, I think about bass playing and
I know where this is going.
Just his musical ability.
You missed
being Prince.
There it is.
Yeah,
I know it's going
so
there as soon as I heard
question
that.
was the perfect segue into the person question.
It was actually, yeah.
Brent will appreciate that answer as well.
Yeah.
One of the questions I always ask other musicians is, which artist would you have wanted to see who've never been able to see? And for me, it's definitely Prince.
I have to admit, I was a little on the fence about Ian. Kind of liked Element. Of course, I like Easy Ed Schlesinger. Of course, he's one of his guys. But I think I really do appreciate him a bit more now. I don't know why, but
No idea. That was pretty. I mean, as soon as he said bass, I knew where you were going. Right.
I was just enjoying his answer.
I thought maybe he'd say I want to be Prince's guitar because it could have been a thing.
Yeah, I'm good with the answer he gave.
Yeah, that was a good answer.
So I thought I'd end things on a positive note.
That was very positive.
And not the note that you saw last night.
Yeah.
That was a hard note. Anyway, we're at the end of the show. You know, I almost forgot. This is like the first time I've been in studio, so to speak, in like a month. It feels good to be back.
Yeah. I got to head to Bozeman tomorrow.
Good old Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
What was that computer company that was out of Bozeman with the cows on the? Remember back in there was Dell, there was Compaq, and there was Gateway Computers.
That's right, with the
from
cows.
Bozeman, Montana, with the cows on the boxes.
Wasn't Right Now from there too?
Yep. Well,
so Gateway, and I think in fact, Right Now used to buy. I think Greg Gianforte used to tell us this, that Right Now used to buy Gateway computers.
Why not?
Because you're buying local, right? So,
and you get the skimp on shipping costs. So
yeah, that's right. There's no shipping costs.
They just have cows deliver them to you.
That's right. I forgot about the cows. I had Gateway 286s.
I still have a Gateway box somewhere around here from.
Jesus Christ, really?
Well, I bought one up there when I was in Delaware, and then when I moved, it was a box. I know I can use this box. Anyway, yeah. So we will be back next Thursday. Well, are you going to be back?
Yeah, I'll be back Monday.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and it's so good to say hi and bye to many. Later.
Bye.